Okay, so if you're someone listening, or maybe you're mentoring someone who's just incredibly bright, really capable, maybe even highly sensitive, and yet all that knowledge just seems to freeze up the second a high-stakes exam hits the desk, then you know exactly the kind of pressure we're talking about today.
Oh, absolutely. That performance pressure, the information overload,
And maybe worst of all, feeling totally judged by like a single bubble sheet.
it's a huge problem. And, typically we treat it as purely emotional, just calm down.
Mm.
But the sources we're diving into today, this detailed action plan for mentors, educators, parents, they suggest something, well, quite different.
Different how?
They offer a structured, almost cognitive plan. It shifts testing away from being this painful verdict on your character, and turns it into more of a solvable intellectual puzzle.
I love that. A puzzle, not a judgment. So our mission today is basically to give you that shortcut, an intellectually focused plan using tools you might not expect, right?
Hmm.
Like intentional detachment, self-observation, even humor.
Deliberate humor, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Okay, let's jump right into that core philosophy then, because this point seems to change the whole game. The ultimate distinction this guide makes is tests measure readiness. Curiosity measures greatness.
That's it. That is the crucial reframing. And it starts with how we even talk about the test itself. We have to break this idea that the exam is some kind of divine objective truth.
Right.
The sources call this the artifact approach.
The artifact approach. Okay, what does that actually mean for the student who's, staring down the barrel of the SAT or a big board exam?
It means presenting the test as an artifact, something made by humans. It's a tool designed imperfectly by fallible adults who are just trying their best to sort of codify something really complex like intelligence.
Ah, okay, so it's not this ultimate measure.
Exactly. It's not a judgment on the student personally. It's more like a temporary social convention we've agreed on.
So the internal conversation changes from I am being tested to something like, okay, I'm decoding how the test designers, think.
Precisely. That takes the heavy personal weight off right away.
Yeah, it becomes almost like a data gathering exercise instead of a trial.
Exactly. You replace pass or fail with discover and understand.
Hmm.
The student's goal isn't validation anymore. It's pattern recognition.
Makes sense.
And this leads straight to maybe the most practical tool they suggest for preparation, the observation notebook.
Okay, the observation notebook. Let's dig into that. It sounds simple, but I get the feeling it's powerful because it moves the whole thing from public evaluation.
Which fuels anxiety.
Right. Into something private. A personal experiment.
Absolutely. The notebook is where the student becomes their own lead researcher. They stop just tracking scores. Instead, they record observations about their own mental state while they're studying or practicing.
Can you give us a really concrete example? What does an entry actually look like? Listeners need specifics here.
Sure, an entry might be something like, okay, noticed I solved the geometry problems like 30% faster today. But only when I forced myself to visualize the pattern first, before reading the words. That's useful data.
Okay, or maybe something more emotional.
Yeah, maybe. The second the timer started for reading comp,
Oh,
felt my shoulders tense right up to my ears. Need a physical counter for that specific trigger.
that's fascinating. They're generating objective data about their own internal chaos, almost.
Hmm.
Training awareness.
And if you can name it,
Yeah.
you get some power over it,
Yeah.
right? Turning stress into just input.
That's the idea.
And this obviously ties into de-emphasizing the stakes, too.
It does. When you see the test as just this human-made artifact, you start to realize it's kind of irrelevant to your actual deep potential. And to really nail this down, the sources suggest a creative exercise. It's about liberation.
Oh, right.
They call it something like if Einstein took the SAT, you imagine it, or even write it out.
That is kind of freeing just thinking about it.
Right. Think about Einstein. His genius was messy, nonlinear, intuitive, often rebellious against the structures of his day. His, potentially too creative reasoning might genuinely earn him average marks on a super standardized test built for conformity.
But he still changed physics. Exactly. So this exercise helps free the student from that illusion that one standard exam defines the whole scope of their intelligence.
The message being, the test is just one very limited filter. If you don't fit perfectly, it says more about the filter, maybe, than about you.
Well put.
Okay, now let's pivot. Because you mentioned humor earlier, and that seems like the most surprising tool in this whole framework.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just about lightening the mood. Humor is treated here as a deliberate cognitive counterforce.
A counterforce to fear.
Yes. Neurologically, fear constricts. It tightens the body,
Hmm?
limits the brain's access to higher thinking. Humor, or even just intentional intellectual amusement, it forces the mind to expand, to make novel connections. It's almost like a physiological reset button.
So we're talking about purposefully generating amusement, not just waiting for something funny to happen.
Exactly right. You create it, maybe start a study session with a witty paradox. Or the guide suggests keeping a list titled, say, Philosophy of the Exam Room.
Okay, like what?
Jotting down clever, maybe slightly absurd observations like, the multiple choice section proves life is fundamentally arbitrary. Since the answer is always A, B, C, or D, but never E, who cares?
I love that. It's using irony to take back some power.
Right. It turns the anxiety itself into a subject of kind of detached amusement instead of this source of dread.
And this leads right into the core confidence idea, observation over emotion. This is where the mind observer comes
A
in.
mind observer, yes, is the student's inner scientist, calm, non-judgmental,
Hmm.
just watching the thoughts and reactions like a data stream.
Creating psychological distance.
That's the key, distance from the emotional storm.
So this is that critical shift. Instead of tension feeling like an emergency, it just becomes data. So when that familiar panic rises, heart pounds, thoughts spiral. The mind observer just notes, observer spots a surge of performance anxiety. Interesting data point.
Yes, by naming it, stepping back, you instantly transform it. It goes from being this paralyzing threat to just something manageable.
You don't fight it, you just categorize it.
Exactly.
And there's a physical anchor for this too, right? The sources give a specific instruction to shift the body.
Yes, a simple but critical neurological reset.
Yeah.
4 slow breaths and a faint smile,
A faint smile, even if you don't feel like it.
especially if you don't feel like it. The deep breaths slow the heart rate, obviously, but the faint smile, it triggers this facial feedback loop. It basically sends a nonverbal signal to your nervous system. Situation safe. It can actually help override the panic signal.
Wow, it's like a literal escape cue for the nervous system.
Yeah.
You're giving the body physical instructions that contradict the mental panic.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's look at the study schedule itself, because this guide really challenges the classic, marathon cram session.
It really does, those long grinding hours. They often lead to diminishing returns, just mental fatigue. The recommendation is for a strategy that's short, deep, and playful, actually.
Playful studying.
Yeah.
How short?
Think 20-minute immersion sessions, really focused, followed by short analysis breaks. It maximizes efficiency, keeps things feeling fresher intellectually.
So after that intense 20 minutes, the break isn't just about checking the score, it's about reflective learning.
Totally different. It's about reflective learning, yes. The focus shifts completely to process questions.
Not just, did I get it right?
No.
Yeah.
More like, okay, what pattern did I notice in that section? Or what was the most elegant bit of reasoning I saw in that question set?
I like that one, elegant reasoning. It shifts focus from anxiety to almost appreciation of the puzzle's design.
It does.
What about mistakes? They're inevitable. How do we frame those?
That's where the strategic mindset really comes in. The most important question becomes, okay, what trick misled me here? And how can I outsmart that type of trick, that test designer tactic, next time?
So failure becomes future strategy, learning to predict the enemy's moves, so to speak.
You got it. It's all about strategy.
Okay, let's shift focus now. The mentors, the parents, they're a huge audience for these sources. The guidelines seem pretty strict about praise. What should adults actually be celebrating?
They must rigorously celebrate the process. Things like insight, curiosity, persistence, not just correctness or high scores.
So if a student struggles for ages with a tough problem and finally gets it,
You celebrate the persistence that led to the breakthrough. Not just the right answer appearing at the end. You affirm the intellectual adventure itself.
anchoring the whole experience in positive value, not just results.
Precisely.
The guide also suggests asking the student after each session for one beautiful idea that came up during study. What's the point of that?
It forces a kind of positive cognitive closure. It makes sure the last thing they really focus on isn't the struggle or the errors, but a moment of beauty or novelty or just intellectual satisfaction, finding something cool in the work.
Makes sense. End on a high note, mentally.
And we also encourage mentors to use gentle irony sometimes to normalize imperfection.
Like what? Give me an example.
Oh, something simple. If they made a small error, you might say, with a little smile, hey, imagine Socrates trying to fill out multiple choice bubbles with a dull pencil. Probably wasn't his finest hour either.
Oh, okay, I see.
It just reinforces that the exam is this limited, sometimes slightly absurd human mechanism. It takes the terrifying gravity out of it.
That subtle emotional safety net sounds crucial. Which brings us, I think, to the ultimate perspective setter, what you're calling the Hall of Brilliant Rebels.
Yes?
We need to give the student and you, the listener, living proof that conventional scores rarely define actual greatness.
It's essential context. We absolutely must remind students that the system often fails to measure true genius. Look at Albert Einstein. Famously failed entrance exams for a technical school, struggled with formal education.
But invented relativity.
Exactly. His curiosity just blew past his compliance.
In Walt Disney's classic example, fired early on for supposedly having a lack of imagination.
Can you believe it? Lack of imagination.
Went on to create entire universes that basically define modern storytelling. Shows the irony of one person's judgment, right?
Or think about Winston Churchill. Defined by persistence, incredible eloquence.
Finished bottom of his class, didn't he?
Dead last at school. But later redefined perseverance in language, won the Nobel Prize in Literature. These people didn't just conquer the test.
They transcended it. They found other paths.
Precisely.
These figures just make the message crystal clear, don't they? Curiosity, not just compliance, is what defines real brilliance. They didn't let limitations within one structure define their potential out in the world.
Absolutely. So just to synthesize the key methods for everyone listening. First, reframe the exam. See it as a human puzzle designed by fallible minds, not some final verdict. Second, use that mind observer technique. Convert the emotional noise into useful, manageable data. And third, view the whole intellectual journey through the lens of curiosity and, yes, even intellectual amusement, rather than just fearful struggle.
And maybe the most profound insight in this whole framework, it's about redefining success itself. Success isn't the elimination of anxiety, trying to just erase anxiety.
Yeah.
That's often exhausting, maybe even futile.
Right.
Success is its conversion, turning it into awareness, into energy, into heightened focus.
Mm-hmm. When you achieve that conversion, when anxiety becomes data, for your mind observer performance just happens. It becomes a natural byproduct of internal understanding and confidence. It's not this fearful fight against an external judgment anymore,
So you emerge not just better prepped for one test.
but more deeply prepared for the whole lifelong adventure of learning and thinking critically.
Which suggests that these tools we use for test pressure, humor, self-observation, curiosity, they're actually the same tools needed for deep intellectual discovery throughout life.
That's the connection, yes.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. What anxiety or fear in your life could you maybe start converting into data and awareness starting today?